Oh, good? Okay. Hi, we're from my Wing Chun Wushu Academy again. I'm Andrew, this is Nick. We've got Jake over there hiding now. One of the things that some people have commented on about what we're doing is, well, not even about us really, although we kind of got a little bit of it, but it seems to be a generally fairly prevalent thing in people's idea about what you should be learning in a I don't know, let's stick to Wing Chun, a Wing Chun school these days, and that is drilling techniques, whether or not you actually do techniques, whether Wing Chun actually has techniques, whether Wing Chun's just all concepts, and what place sparring has, and then what kind of sparring you do, and how Chi Sao fits into that, and at what range you do Chi Sao, which I sort of went through the other day in some videos and whatnot. But basically I'd just go into a little bit about how we progress through the system in our school. I'm not commenting on how other people do it. However they want to do it's fine by us. It's none of our business. But the way we do it, we have almost an obsessive fixation on foundation training, and as far as I'm concerned, your foundations can never be strong enough. They might be strong enough that you'll progress and learn new stuff, but there's something you should always be jumping back and forwards between with your training. So to give you an example of it, I've been doing this stuff for going on 20 years now. The majority of my training, when my back allows me to do it, is Yiji Kim Young Ma, single centerline punches, and Jun Ma. I know other Hong Kong and Gong Jia style Wing Chun, but I still spend most of my training time on those three foundational things. The same with Nick and Jake. All of us do a huge amount of these foundation techniques. So in our class, we don't sort of obsess on it as much as in our own training, but we do put a fair bit of time into it. So as a beginner, if a beginner came to our school, they'd learn Sam Bai Fat. That's the first section of Suan Tao, the bit that's done typically slowly, and then they won't learn the rest of it until they get to level 1, which is probably about 6 months, depending on the person. We have some that are a bit quicker, some a bit slower. But a good guess would be 6 months of training. And the majority of that 6 months of training would be spent on Yiji Kim Young Ma, single centerline punches, and Jun Ma. And then, as they go into the class and we line up and everyone practices techniques, they'll drill techniques. Now, there's some, I don't know if it's a debate even, getting around whether Wing Chun's a conceptual martial art or a technique-based martial art. I don't know what either of those mean, to be honest. I don't know what, if he's going to punch me in the face, I can't think of, I'll put a concept there. My concept got punched. However, if I put a technique there, I'll get punched anyway. But if I stick my arm out, for us, a technique's the embodiment of a concept, I suppose. We prefer the word principles, but that's just being picky. But whatever you stick out, in this case, what we call a til sao, is a technique. It has various concepts or principles that guide how I'm going to do it, but it's still, the technique is an embodiment of a concept. So we have, heaven forbid, we've got techniques in our Wing Chun. So I have Dai Sao, I have Gang Sao, I have that one, Tan Sao, and whatever. So a lot of time will be spent by people in our school drilling those things, because they're the things that are going to stop someone punching you in the face. So if we take Gang Sao, for example, that's not going to stop someone punching you in the face, because if you punch me in the face and I try to use Gang Sao, it's just silly. if he's going to punch me down here, I'm using gang sao to stop him doing it. Now, that has to be foolproof, in my opinion. The way we train at it with our beginners until no matter what he throws, it's not going to get through. No matter how fast it is, no matter how he messes the timing up, no matter how, I don't know what, if he punches in, I'm going to do gang sao. And I want to see people I teach train to the point where if something goes like that at them, that whips out. Whether if he even fakes, I still get him anyway. So if you're having to if you're at a point with your training where you've actually got to concentrate on doing that to make it work, then the day you actually need to pull it out, you're going to be getting hit because you just don't have time to think about these things. So the point of drilling techniques the way we do it, where you see in our videos, we'll have a student just over and over and over and over and over and over again, is so that gets past any sort of conscious thought in both application, in having the reflexes for, because if someone's going to punch you, if I'm going to attack Nick, I'll just do it slow so you don't have to go crazy. If I'm here, I could punch with this hand, I could punch with that hand, I might try and kick him with that leg. I had my weight there, I'd maybe shift it and try and kick him with the front one. He doesn't know what I'm going to do, but I might throw that, and whatever pops out has to deal with it, and he can't think about it. So the point of drilling techniques like that is to ingrain certain movements into your body so that if a punch comes around, it comes out without me having to really do it. In fact, if you've done it, usually the first thing is when beginners begin to realise that they can do it, is that'll come and it'll pop out and they'll kind of, wow, I didn't even know I did it, sort of thing happens. It's one of those moments where your body just reacts to it. And that's what we want to see, and that's why we drill this stuff so much. The next point of it is that if I don't drill it to the point where it's going to literally stop every single one that comes, if there's a bit of that, if there's any gap, any weakness, if it's not 100% consistent, then in my mind I'm cheating the person I'm teaching, because I don't know, maybe they go out to nightclubs and get in seedy places and maybe someone wants to try to punch them. And if it's not 100% foolproof, then they're going to get hit with it. So that's one of the reasons why we drill these techniques so much, why we drill them in the stance, because the structure has to be locked in, because that's what you need to deliver the techniques properly. Probably the best example of that's the gang sao. If I'm in my stance, whether I'm down in Yiji Kimemma, I do gang sao, whether I turn and do the gang sao, it's still going to work. Whether I'm standing here and I drop down into my stance to do the gang sao, all the time it's in the right spot. However, if he punches me, just keep your arm there. If I then come and stand up, do gang sao, just don't hit me hard, I'm still probably going to get hit. If I just do that a bit, I keep him out. So the structure of the stance backs up the structure of everything you do in your arms, in the way we see it. You drill it so much so that there's no way whatever he throws is going to come through when I'm doing it. Yes, our beginners will be in this stance and it's entirely unrealistic. You might throw that or throw that and whatever comes. If he jumps away, they haven't learned the footwork yet, so they're not going to be able to follow him. But that's why they're beginners. But the point of us drilling these techniques so much, when we're getting our beginners to drill them so much, is to make them absolutely airtight, so that when they get the next thing, which in our progression, they'll first say learn gang sao, the next step, once their junma is adequate, we'll get the turn, making it a much more realistic technique. when they've done a bit of our foundation drill set, they might get the return. So you might come out and back. More advanced students who have gotten more footwork will start using their footwork to come in and deal with it. So there's this progression going from very abstract technique taken well out of its context. The go and say I don't like this is entirely out of its context. If I practice Tan Da, for example, here, this puts his arm in a terrible position in relation to my Tan Sa. Absolutely terrible position, because he can slip past it. But that's not the point of drilling the technique like this. The point of drilling the technique is to just make sure that the technique's good. Because when the student gets their footwork, the footwork puts the technique into its context. And so that's why we kind of drill the techniques like we do. And they're all based in Wing Chun principles, or concepts if you like, but I don't know, is that what people mean when it's a technique-based or concept-based martial art?
Yeah, or that it can come out of the shape that we use it in training. It looks different to how it looks in training.
Yeah, I don't know. If it looks different to how you do it in training, why bother training it, to my mind. And it might be kind of a bit nasty or conceited to go so far as that, but that starts to hint to an excuse of why your Wing Chun doesn't look like it does when you train at it. And to me that probably hints towards a lack of drilling your techniques enough so that when something comes, it actually looks like a Tan Sao. If you drill your techniques, if you've got good Sulum Tao, good turns, you drill your techniques so that every single time, if you look at our videos, every single, say, person who's level 1 and on, so they're the ones with the little orange sash, they'll have their fingers tight. That, depending on the height of the other person, will be a right angle. It'll come straight up and strike. There won't be a student with the technique varying. Every single time they do it, it'll land in exactly the same spot. And that's how you get your Wing Chun to be really consistent. And that's how you get the technique when someone throws a punch to look like it should when you're training at it. So to me, that's it. Train harder. Train properly. People train really hard, but they may not know how to train properly, which is unfortunate. So that's how we do our progression with drills.